Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am joined here, as always, by the man who has the athletic prowess of Tim Boyle. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm enjoying a nice Shiner Bock. That's a free ad. Shiner, feel free to reach out.
Okay. No, they'd have to pay
Because
us. That's how this works, right?
I
That's
know
how this,
exactly.
yeah.
Free ad because my team's in first place of their division. That's right. First place. Feels good.
Patriots are back. Thank God something finally has gone the New England Patriots way.
Exactly. We're
Then
back.
it was
All
a
is right
dark
in the
year.
world. Yeah, I know. It was rough, but hey, we persevered. Fans stayed rational.
Yes. Yeah. Good stuff for the Patriots. Let's, first things first. We got some housekeeping to attend to. The preview show going to be on Tuesday, not Wednesday, as I mistakenly put in my first banner that we had to re-edit right before the show. Tuesday will be the show. Tuesday, 9:00. So we're gonna quick turnaround there. So that should be fun. So everyone, if you want to watch live, be on the lookout for that. It's going to be a day early. And then let's just get into the Sunday night game. Kyle, this was a very sort of predictable Sunday night game until the final 5 minutes or so, and then all hell broke loose.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers are just basically the NFL's best bad team, right? That's basically what this is. Year after year, they
Mhm.
continue to do this. This team find ways to win games. They beat bad teams really well, and it's because they're typically one of the most disciplined and smartest football teams, and they just capitalize on everything. They get the block punt to bring them back in the game. They get the tipped interception to bring them back in the game. Um, and it's like they play bad for like 40 minutes, but at the same time, the time that they did play well, they almost pulled it out and won this game.
Yeah, I mean it was one of the and this has happened to the Steelers before, right? I mean they won the Bills game largely due to like a blocked punt. So it's like quickly becoming one of the it was almost one of the luckiest. I don't luckiest is kind of weird, but I do feel like kind of fair too. One of the luckier comebacks that's happened, and they still weren't able to fully finish it off. Also, we have a super chat. Do you guys read super chats? The answer to that
Yes.
is yes. All right, but yeah, just a wild game. I think broad strokes here. Like Justin Herbert's awesome. Like that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good in this game. And, we
Mhm.
talked about the Steelers secondary that didn't have Minka Fitzpatrick. They couldn't cover anyone. They couldn't cover anything. And when they did have coverage, Herbert could run because no one was looking at the quarterback. Austin Eckler did whatever he wanted. He had 4 touchdowns in this game. I mean, it was a really good showing from the Chargers offense, kind of a bounce back showing because they had some struggles the last few weeks. And they took advantage of the Steelers secondary.
Yeah, I mean that was a very real thing. Obviously, Eli Mullen in the chat says, "I swear I don't know how you watch Steelers games and don't see how much T.J. Watt matters." I mean, and you could say that about basically the entire defensive line at a certain point was injured, other than Cam Hayward. Like, I mean, they were just dropping like flies. So that is a part of it as well. But I would still say it's like even with all that, like. They still it was still a very impressive performance from Herbert. And this is kind of what we said going in of like, okay, when the Steelers' game plan is we're going to try to outmatch Justin Herbert with Najee Harris, like that's not a great game plan. That's not a great way to win. And it wasn't until, again, towards the end when you basically get spotted 2 touchdowns that changed things.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually didn't think Big Ben for large parts of this game was bad. I thought the
Mm-hmm.
last couple of drives he was a little bit of an adventure when he was forced to throw the ball downfield. But I think when Ben can kind of keep to his level of throw, like when he's not asked to throw the ball 20 yards, I thought he did all right in this game. But for the most part, he was just outplayed by a better quarterback, and Herbert was a clearly better quarterback in this game. The interception was obviously fluky, and yeah, I mean the Chargers got it done in the end, even though they did everything they could to lose this game and still won.
Is this maybe a changing of the guards? Because this is about to be the most Chargers loss of all time, right? Of like on prime time, lose with this special teams nightmare going on. The fact that they're able to pull this off and win this game, does this mean this is a new Chargers team, perhaps?
I don't know yet. I mean, they still can't cover. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is the team that's supposed. This is the defense constructed to cover, and they didn't cover well in this game. And they played better against the run because the Steelers have an awful offensive line. I mean, I'm not ready. I'm not really sold on this Chargers team like being good. I think it could make the playoffs just because I think there's a couple spots that are up for grabs. but I'm not ready to say that this is like all of a sudden a good team because they won this game. They got a
Yeah, I
great
don't know,
quarterback.
but here's the way I feel. It's more of it kind of just feels like this might be a different Chargers team going forward. Maybe not this year, but just this is the game that the Chargers historically lose. It's nice to see them win one. If you're into that kind of thing, that's kind of how it feels.
Yeah, I mean, I can get that maybe this is building towards the future because it does feel like this team is a couple pieces away from being really good. So,
Hmm.
once they kind of, part of it is kind of it's cliche, but establishing the culture, and there's a culture of losing these games for a number of years in Los Angeles / San Diego. Pulling out this win, I feel like it's just a big thing.
Yeah. I think that one thing I would throw in there is I was very much rooting for the Chargers, given how many Steelers fans there were in the stadium. As a Tampa Bay Rays fan, not a big fan of when like a home game basically becomes an away game. I don't love it.
Al Michaels was really harping on the fact that there was terrible towels waving everywhere in this game, wasn't he?
Uh,
Just
yeah.
delivering the beat. I mean, this is a thing that they've dealt with basically all year. And it seems
Mhm.
like every Chargers home game, I'm hearing how many road fans are at this game. And they played teams that travel well, like the Steelers, the Patriots. I think they've played another team that travels pretty well too. And it's just like, I mean, it's unfortunate that you're the sixth most popular team in your area, but that's
Mhm.
just kind of the way it is right now.
Yeah, maybe they should go to, they also have, Dallas and the Raiders also have played with the Chargers. So that's, at the Charger Stadium. So that's another factor. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like maybe the Chargers should find a good football city that they could play in that's not Los Angeles, maybe like a San Diego or something.
Yeah, something like that. Real you could establish the grassroots there and be basically the only professional sports franchise. So that might be a good
Hmm.
idea.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, again, well, why is the
Well, there's
Chargers fan
Padres.
base so non existent? Yeah, I think it's because they exist. They're in the wrong city.
Well, you've got, the USC Trojans, you got the UCLA Bruins, you got both Los Angeles basketball teams, both
Hmm.
LA or one LA baseball team. Anaheim doesn't count. Um, you know, and then the Rams have somehow established themselves first. So it's like you're the odd man out. And
Well, the Rams
Raiders,
also, like, they played there not that long ago.
yeah. And the Raiders have a bigger fan base there because they played there
Hmm.
not that long ago. I mean, there's no new fans that are attracted to Chargers. Now, in 10, 15 years, if Herbert continues to light up the league and maybe wins an MVP or two, all of a sudden you're probably going to have a lot more Chargers fans in the area.
Yeah, I think it'll come around, but yeah. Anyways, I think that's it for the game. You want to just move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah. Let's go to probably the game of the week here. Packers at Vikings. Vikings pull off the upset here. It was only, I think they were only a 1 point underdog, so it wasn't a massive upset. But really, maybe they were even favored at what it closed. I'm not
I
sure,
saw
but
Packers -2.
okay, yeah. So something like that. I mean, the reality is this was kind of a very fun back and forth game. I thought both quarterbacks you could have your nitpicks with. Like Rodgers took about a quarter and a half to get going. Cousins did throw the ball to the other team a decent amount, but
Yeah.
none of them ended up hurting him. And I mean, basically, Kirk Cousins' strategy was throw the ball up to Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, and that's the best strategy the Vikings have had all season, and that's a big reason why they won this football game.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the ceiling of the Minnesota Vikings, right? You look at this, you have 20 targets combined with Hurt, Jefferson, and Thielen. That's 10 each. And you're throwing the ball 35 times and, handing the ball off to Cook 22 times. I feel like that's the right balance of this team. It's the right way to do things. And this is definitely, at least for the first half, the ceiling of what you could see from this team. The problem is the inconsistencies we've seen with the play calling and just the mess that we've seen with, trying to establish a rhythm throughout games that I feel like it's been a problem with this team finding that ceiling consistently. And so, yeah, I mean, they looked really good in this game. They looked terrific. And now they're in a playoff spot because they looked terrific and had a good game plan going into this one.
Yeah, I mean the Vikings, like I keep saying this. The Vikings talent. Like, watching these two teams, I'm like, I don't think the Packers have more talent than the Vikings in this game. Now, Packers has some injuries, so that's a factor
Yeah.
that I'm including in this. But the Packers of today, I don't know if they were the more talented team that lost. Like, it doesn't seem obvious to me that that's the case. I think both of these teams are very talented, and I think that for the Vikings, like part of it too is I don't know if this is their ceiling because I feel like their defense made some crucial errors. There was some blown coverage and there was a dropped interception in this one. The fact that there was no turnovers in this game is bonkers because there was, at least like 5 turnover worthy plays in this game, I would imagine. But still, it was again, very fun game. I think the Vikings could even, this is not their ceiling. I also think this is not the Packers ceiling, right? Obviously we expect their defense to be better. Part of it is, finally not really having corners did kind of come back to bite them a little.
Yeah, it was surprising because the defense had held up pretty good all season, and then it was they just couldn't cover this week, and part of it is also going up against Thielen and Jefferson, which is a really good tandem. But yeah, it just seemed like there was a lot of open players in this game. And on the other side, Vikings had a big lead in this game, and then the Packers just kind of worked their way back into it. Like you said, Cousins had some bad throws. He had the interception that was called back from roughing the passer. And then he also had an interception that was dropped by, I think it was Savage in the secondary. That was a close play. But, I mean, for the most part, I thought he was pretty good. And I thought Rodgers was terrific in the second half of this game, bringing the Packers back and really made a game of it. But, yeah, I mean, there was some missed coverages on both sides. It was entertaining. It was really exciting to see both of these teams go at it and made a great result.
Yeah, I mean, you still think about the Vikings and like the games they've lost this season. They lost to the Bengals in overtime. They lost to the Cardinals on a last-second missed field goal. They lost to the Browns in a game where the Browns only scored 14. They lost to the Cowboys without the Dak Prescott in that. So it's like you just win a cup, and not to mention they lost in that game where they had a big lead to the Baltimore Ravens. Lost that one in overtime. They just won like a couple of those games, and they're like right in the mix for like the number 1 seed, let alone a playoff spot. So there's a lot of stuff to like about for the Vikings. On the flip side, for the Packers, I think for the Packers, to me, this is a definite they tried to play that cover 2 that they had done in the past, but the Vikings run the ball a decent amount, and also they kind of, teams now have tape on that. They can game plan, and, it's not that difficult to figure out ways to beat Kevin King, right? So, they were able to, figure this stuff out eventually, and I think that for the Packers, this is just a wake-up call, they need Jair Alexander back.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely some issues with the Packers game, but I think overall they'll still be fine, and I still probably pick them to win the division. I will say this is 2 weeks in a row now with slow starts on offense. So I mean, if they were consistent throughout this entire game, they probably win this game. So I mean, I still think they're fine, but yeah, I mean, I think there's some things they need to work out. And like you said, it's probably just a wake up call for the whole team.
Yeah, I think I agree. At what point are we there? Are we at the point yet where we're ready to start the Kirk Cousins for MVP talk yet? Are we there yet or not quite?
The thing that's so funny is it's like this is almost going to be a by default MVP because there's just no one's really separating themselves. And I mean, Cousins is at 21 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I mean, there's no chance he's going to win it. I just don't think there's any chance.
There's too many writers would have to go back and delete some old tweets to give Kirk Cousins the MVP.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's just never going to win it. So I won't even bring it up.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, very fun game. And hey, Vikings winning on a last-second field goal. That doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, I tweeted right before it. This is all set up for Vikings to miss a field goal and Packers to win in overtime. And then they hit it.
Didn't happen. Maybe different Vikings team. Probably not. They're still the Vikings. Let's move on. Let's talk. How about Cowboys Chiefs? We expected this to be a competitive game. I don't think we expected this to be a defensive slugfest, which it wasn't exactly. But the score kind of makes it that way. Of Cowboys 9, Chiefs 19. A weird score in this one as well. I thought Mahomes looked really good at times. The Chiefs offense still isn't quite what it once was, but it definitely played a lot better. But it's kind of the Chiefs defense slowly playing better these past few weeks. That has been the story, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this defense good now?
I don't know. I mean, one aspect should be mentioned is there was no Amari Cooper. And, that's a big part of the Dallas Cowboys passing attack is the 3-headed monster of Lamb, Gallup, and Cooper. Take one of those, players out. It is easier to game plan against 2 receivers than 3. And we're seeing that with Seattle, right? Where you can double team 2 guys. You can't double team 3 guys unless you only rush 3. I think that I don't know if I'm ready to call them good, but I think that they were probably getting a bit too much criticism early on. I think that
Yeah.
I think there's things that they can do well.
Yeah, I do think the one, and then I think they lost CD Lamb halfway through this game too, which also hurt. I think the one thing that was surprising, even before Lamb went out, was the just the lack of ability to get open against man-to-man defense for the Cowboys. You figured still with Lamb, with Gallup, with Wilson, with all these guys, they're still going to have guys get open in the man-to-man situations, and they just didn't. It seemed like that the Chiefs' coverage actually did pretty good. Chris Jones obviously was a monster on the defensive line, which helps. But at the same time, it just seemed like guys weren't able to get open.
Yeah, that was definitely a big aspect. I also thought that I don't know. I thought the Chiefs' offense going to the Chiefs. I thought their offense played better than maybe the numbers would suggest. I know the numbers aren't
Mhm.
anything crazy. But I thought they moved the ball with some consistency in this one.
I thought the offense did
Mhm.
well. But I did
One other
think,
aspect should mention there were 5 turnovers in this game. You know, 3 by
yeah.
Dallas and 2 by Kansas City. So that also was a factor.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the offense played well for Kansas City. The problem that they have is the same problem that they've had all season, right? They don't really have the third option. Clyde
Mhm.
Edwards-Helaire looked pretty good at times during this game, but still, even looking at the receiver targets, it's 11 targets for Hill, 8 targets for Kelsey, and the next highest target guy was 3, and that was McCole Harmon and Darrell Williams, who combined for 3 catches over 6 targets. So it's just the same thing that we're seeing with this team. There's not that third guy. There's not that Sammy Watkins who can at least get 5 targets a game and be successful in those.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that's it's a real aspect of that third option. I think people kind of think about like, that is how you win football games a lot of ways is by depth. It's not by your stars. It's by teams take your stars away. That's a legitimate thing you can do in football. And what do you do when that happens? There's this comment, another masterclass of screwing up the game by McCarthy. Like, I don't know if I fully like I thought it was kind of weird where so to set the stage, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, at the end of the first half, the Dallas Cowboys are driving the ball in a 2-minute drill. They go for it on 4th and 1 and get it. It was either 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1. They get the first down, and they had 2 play calls called. So they just hurry up and run the next play. Prescott throws an interception on the next play. Everyone was saying, "Oh, Mike McCarthy, what an idiot! Why not just call a timeout?" Like my thing is like, hey, Dak Prescott, maybe don't throw an interception there. Like, why
Yeah.
don't we ever blame the players? Why do we always blame it on the coaches for not calling a timeout? Not even like the play call.
Yeah, especially if there's 2 plays set up. I mean,
Hmm.
Dak knows what he's doing in that situation. And, as we were just talking about, if Dak's going to be viewed as an MVP candidate, he can't make those mistakes.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that I'm on the same page there as well. I never really bought into the Dak Prescott MVP, but it was kind of similar to like the Kirk Cousins MVP, where it's almost like by necessity.
Yeah. Well, the thing is different. I mean, people view Dak as good, and I think Dak is like legitimately a good quarterback, but at the same time, it's like you're looking at this and he had his worst game of his career basically with Amari Cooper out. And is it a
Hmm.
problem like does he need all 3 of these guys to be a good quarterback? I mean, obviously it's way too small of a sample size to judge it fairly, but at the same time, I thought he looked I'll just say I thought he looked really bad today. I thought he was really bad in this game.
Yeah, this was it's just kind of an ugly game. The Kansas City Chiefs now. I mean, the way that they've won football games, it's just bizarre. They haven't. You have to go back to the Titans game to find the last time they've given up 20 points, and you have to go back to I believe it's Week 5, the last time they've given up 30 points. So, they're playing good football the past 4 weeks on defense. So I guess that's where things goes. And you got to give credit, of course, to Steve Spagnuolo and what he can scheme up with this defense. Like that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. So I want to ask real quick before we move on, because we did a
Okay.
whole in-depth thing with the AFC last week.
Hmm.
As you've seen these teams progress and change, and we had 2 big losers out of the NFC this week with 2 of the top 5 teams theoretically. Where are you at with the NFC now? What teams are you confident in at this point of the season?
I think so. Is it right now, or is it in terms of when the playoffs start? Because, like for example, Tampa Bay, I still feel comfortable once they get their corners back and once they get Antonio Brown and Gronkowski back, who all should come back at a certain point. Like right now, they're not a spectacular team, but I
Yeah.
would say them. If we're talking once the playoffs happen, I think Arizona once Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins are back. I still like the Rams, and I think the Packers are. Those are the 4 teams I think like to me, that feels like the divisional round is those 4 teams. I don't know. But Dallas is right there. I guess it's those 5 teams. It's still the 5 teams. I think any one of them could potentially go all the way. If you have to give me two, I probably go Green Bay and Tampa Bay. But you could argue any of the five.
You don't think Minnesota can sneak in there?
They'd screw something up. They'd have some dumb game plan. The talent again, but I just don't trust their coaching.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I still kind of feel like I'm most comfortable with Green Bay and Tampa Bay. And honestly, the thing with Arizona, like I like Arizona, but I'm just concerned about Kyler Murray's health because it's the second year. I mean, we'll talk about that going forward, but yeah, I feel like those are the two teams I'm most comfortable with right now.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's fascinating. Let's move on. Let's go to some of the upsets of the week. We'll start off with Colts blowing out the Buffalo Bills. I did not see this coming at all. I thought Buffalo was going to handle it. Buffalo came into this week with the number one points per drive offense and defense. I don't think they'll be leaving this week with that. And what's crazy about this is, Colts score 41. Carson Wentz only 106 passing yards in this game. This was a Jonathan Taylor game. This was a running game and part of it too was like, okay, listen, the turnovers gave short field. Like there was a muff punt. I think they gave him the ball like the 1 yard line. So the Bills turned the ball over 4 times. Colts didn't at all. That factored in. The conversation is out there, so let's go there. We're talking about MVP. People are saying, should Jonathan Taylor win MVP? What are your thoughts, Kyle?
No. I don't think he should win MVP right now. Obviously, if they continue to progress and they end up like in the 11-6 category, maybe. But that's even a stretch based on it was a slow start to the year for him too. So I think that he's very good. I think he's probably due for competing with Cooper Kupp for Offensive Player of the Year. The issue is, unless we continue to not see one quarterback actually like separate itself from the pack, it's hard to believe anything besides a quarterback wins MVP. It seems harsh, it seems unfair, but I'm sorry. The history of the sport says that unless there's a generationally amazing season from a running back or wide receiver, that is probably going to be a quarterback. So I'm not really betting anything other than quarterback right now.
Yeah, my stance is as long as we're calling it the most valuable player award, it's going to be really hard to give it to a non-quarterback because quarterbacks just are way more valuable. And like the way I view this is, okay, let's say the Colts are playing, like who's another MVP candidate? We'll use how about like Justin Herbert? Okay, the Colts are playing the Chargers. If the Colts propose the deal, hey, we'll sit Jonathan Taylor this week if you sit Justin Herbert, there's no chance the Chargers are taking that deal. Like it would seem silly to even argue the contrary. Like clearly there's more value. And I also think it's like, okay, an element of this too is you have a great offensive line who's run blocking really well. Taylor deserves a ton of credit as well. We should mention Taylor is really playing awesome, but I just think it's really hard for me to argue with anyone other than a quarterback to win MVP.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I guess getting to the game real quick. You got to give, you talked about Taylor. The offensive line was obviously terrific.
Mm-hmm.
I think plenty of credit needs to go to also, as you were talking about before the week, the Colts coverage I thought did really good in this game. Also coming up with the interceptions. I just thought it was a good performance overall from Indianapolis. And that AFC South door isn't closed. It's not, it's open. There plenty of other teams can go up there and take it, including Indianapolis. I think they can go and win this division. The race is on now.
No, wait, hold on. Only Indianapolis can go up there and take it.
Well, yes.
No other, the Texans or the Jaguars are not going up there and winning that division.
Huh? Tyrod Taylor? No,
yeah, Ty God, yeah.
So, still, yes, the Indianapolis Colts can win the division. That division's wide open to me still.
Yeah. Let's also say it helps when Josh Allen throws you the football 3 times and also you lose a fumble. Like that also makes things a lot easier for your defense to play well. It was a fluky game. That was an aspect of this as well. I think that's fair to not to say that I think even without all the flukiness, the Colts win this game on this day, but that kind of what turned maybe like a 7-point or like a 10-point victory into a complete blowout.
Yeah, but let's talk about this Bills team because the numbers on it are insane. The DVOA numbers on it were insane, but part of that is because you look at their schedule. They beat up on Miami when Jacoby Brissett was in. They beat up on Washington while Washington was falling apart. They beat up on Houston with Davis Mills was in. I think that was his first or second start. They beat Kansas City when Kansas City was falling apart. I mean, that's probably their best win of the season. They beat up on the Jets when I don't even know who was playing quarterback for the Jets at the time. And then they beat up on the Dolphins, I think, in Tua's first game back. Like, if they're going to beat one playoff team all year, this team doesn't have Tom Brady where they get the kind of pedigree and say, oh, you didn't beat a playoff team, but we trust you in the postseason. This team doesn't have that pedigree, and I don't really know how to trust this team yet. Is that a fair conversation?
I think that's fair. I think they're a tough team to get your finger on, because typically I'm not a big fan of the look at who they played, because I kind of feel like, okay, that matters a little, but there's so much talent in the NFL. Like, beating the Texans 40-0 is still beating an NFL team 40-0. Like, that's still an impressive feat. And you could also argue, well, the following week the Texans actually only lost to the Patriots by 5. So it does kind of go both ways there. But I do think that has inflated some of their numbers a little bit. And this is why even 10 games in, it's a small sample size. And this is what makes things difficult. I mean, the Bills have 4 losses, and the Bills have had ugly losses in this one. Like, there's no reason they should have ever lost to Jacksonville. They should have beaten the Titans when they played them that game. And there's no reason they should have lost to the Steelers. Now there's maybe a reason to lose to the Colts. There's no reason to lose to the Colts by as much as you did. So the thing I still maintain about the Bills, though, is you catch them on their best day and you're losing. I think that the Bills their peak is higher than any other team's peak. I just don't know how consistent they can be.
Yeah, and the question is will we actually see that peak in the playoffs? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Kansas City game is probably the closest we've seen to their peak. And we didn't know what really that Kansas City team was at the time. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what this team does going forward. Obviously, falling to second in the division, they got a big game Thursday against New Orleans. I just don't really know how to feel about the team right now. I feel like that it is a talented team and they should win this division, but this team's not playing at the level it should, and Josh Allen isn't playing at the level that he should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but again, the flip side is, like, you could say the same thing about Kansas City. You could say the same thing about Baltimore. You could say the same thing about Tennessee. So I agree with all those things, but I still think that there's hope. So I guess let's do it the other way. If you have to pick one team in the AFC right now, where do you go? You going Patriots?
I feel like right now they're the most reliable team in football.
Wow, this is a hot take, Kyle. The Patriots are the most reliable team.
Maybe most reliable team in the AFC. How's that? Is that still too hot?
That's still a bit warm. It's a bit warm. I would say that. I mean, they've been very good as of late. But are you basically just saying they're a different team since the Buccaneers lost? When they got killed by the Saints, when they lost to the Miami Dolphins week 1, that was just sort of a different team.
Yeah, I mean, because the big thing is that this offense is leaps and bounds ahead of where it was weeks 1, 2, and 3, 4. Obviously, and that's expected when you start a rookie quarterback at the beginning of the season. That as long as he progresses, the offense is going to get better. I think that, even that New Orleans game, though, they were down 1 score with like 4 minutes to go and just didn't come up with the stop at the end. So I do think this is a team that, as it's getting better and progressing on offense, and this coverage unit is playing probably better than any coverage unit in football right now, it's just going to be, I think that they're going to be a tough out for anybody in the NFL, especially in the AFC.
All right. Well, let me, you know what? Let's just, actually, I like this segment. So let's stick with this. And let's go to the Patriots. Let's just go to the Thursday night game. I think we had covered everything about the Colts Bills. Let's stick with this. Couldn't you make the same argument about the Patriots that you made with the Bills? Patriots beat up on the Falcons. They did beat the Browns, but the Browns are kind of, they barely beat the Lions this week. Who knows what's going on with them? Beat up on Carolina. They beat up on the Jets. Barely beat the Davis Mills led Texans. You could and beat up on the Jets again. You could sort of make a similar argument that you made about the Bills, I think.
Sort of, but at the same time, like we're still at least talking about a couple fringe playoff teams here. The Falcons up until that game were in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, yeah, but they were, but they weren't good.
The Browns are a team that's considered a playoff team. Whether Baker Mayfield's 100% or not, they're still considered talent-wise a playoff team. They beat the crap out of the Browns, and I just think you go through the list and it's like, and the other thing is that they don't have embarrassing losses. Like
losing to the Dolphins was an embarrassing loss. They have
embarrassing. That was a kid's first start in the NFL.
losing to the Saints by 15 points was an embarrassing loss.
I don't think it was that bad given the context of the game. I just
Okay.
think, but yeah, I mean, I think given the kid's first start of his career, losing to the Dolphins, it's frustrating, but at the same time, where this team is at now is light years ahead of where it was back then.
I mean, I'll say this: I think the Patriots are a good team. I think that I don't think that you're actually that far off. And there's a lot that the Patriots team actually have a Mac Jones film study about the Falcons game tomorrow, and a lot of what I talk about is it's not just Mac Jones; it's the receiving core. Like people keep talking about this being like a trash receiving core, but like Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, we talk about depth. Right. With Hunter Henry also, like that's 4 legit options every play. You're going to have someone open on most of these plays. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, really good running game. Like there's a lot to like about this Patriots team. I don't disagree that this is a championship contender, and especially the way they've been playing as of late. I do still think though, it's like we can't say that on one hand the Bills aren't proven, but on the other hand say the Patriots are proven. Like both to me feel very unproven. Patriots play the Titans next week. I think that's the first real test, and then the Bills the week after on Monday Night Football.
I mean, this next 4-game stretch is where we're really going to evaluate the Patriots. I just think right now, of what I've seen this season, I think the 2 teams I trust in the AFC right now, if the playoffs started today, are New England and Kansas City. Because one has Patrick Mahomes, and I think one's playing the best football right now in the AFC.
Trust to get to the playoffs, or trust in the playoffs?
Like if you said the playoffs started today, who's in the AFC Championship? Not even thinking about like projecting matchups, I would say New England and Kansas City are the best 2 teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I don't know if I go that far. I think that I get what you're saying, but another factor is like, okay, Mac Jones is still going to be playing. Like, it's a real thing. The rookie quarterback in their first playoff game. Like I know that like Tom Brady did incredible when he first played in his playoff games, but that's kind of the exception. I think there's a lot to like about the Patriots. I think I might not be quite as hot on them as you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling good about this team. I gotta say,
I can tell that.
I mean,
yeah,
the group has just been really good, and I think that now that there's a realistic chance that they're getting home playoff games, where the teams are going to have to come to Foxborough in the snow and deal with our running game, I think that's going to be really tough to beat. And I just think it's tough to throw on us even in perfect weather conditions too. So I just think that looking at this team, it's going to be really hard to beat this team if they continue to play this well. The question is now that there's more and more tape on this defense, can teams start scheming against this defense and start working things out? Because the problem is they keep seeing this tight end or running back against Adrian Phillips matchup, and they get destroyed on it every time because Adrian Phillips is good. But teams keep trying to go at it and expose him, and it's never going to work. So when do teams stop throwing at that kind of matchup and trying to isolate these linebackers in coverage?
Yeah, I like overlap 618 is back. Says, miss me, boys. I'm back like I never left. Pats Bucks Super Bowl, and Jackson is wearing a penguin suit. To be clear, I believe it was the penguin suit if they win the Super Bowl. No penguin suit just for making the Super Bowl. They have to win. So I would take that, a victory over the Patriots. I mean, let's just say this. How great would it be if there's a Patriots-Buccaneers Super Bowl? Like, NFL, rig it. Make it happen. I mean, you got to do what you got to do to make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a lot of fun. I probably wouldn't talk to you for like a week, just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, I mean, if the live stream of you and I watching the Super Bowl would be an all-timer.
Yeah, that'd be pretty intense, I gotta say. But yeah, I mean, as I take a cold shower real quick, I do think that this team is really exciting, and I think that the team that I want to see going forward, I want to see as these weapons have really started to develop. Bourne has become a real guy, like you said. Hunter Henry has become a real guy. Aguilar is even coming along. It seems like the one guy who hasn't really quite figured out his role with the Patriots offense has been Jonnu Smith. And if they can figure him out and make that another weapon, I think this is going to be a really interesting team going forward.
Overlap 618. Get your penguin suits out, boys. So there you go. Yeah. Will you wear a penguin suit if the Patriots win the Super Bowl this year?
No.
Okay, yeah, that was much smarter decision than me. I don't know why I said yeah. So it should be a very fascinating situation. The Patriots. I think we both agree with this. Patriots are good, and Falcons not so much.
They're not good. I gotta say, if anyone says Matt Ryan's bad, they don't watch the Falcons. I gotta say,
Uh-huh.
you didn't watch a second of this game if you come away with it saying Matt Ryan stinks, and if you haven't watched a single second of the Falcons this season if you say Matt Ryan's not a good quarterback, and that's okay. But I'm just saying that I think that he's a pretty good quarterback and made some really good throws in this game. Unfortunately, with Ridley out, with Patterson out, guys weren't open. There wasn't anybody open in this game, and I mean Belichick was not letting Pitts do anything. And yeah, I mean Matt Ryan's still a good quarterback.
Yeah, and the offensive line just was
That's a
abysmal in
mess
this
too, yeah.
one. I mean that was a lot. So let's move on. Let's go to it's a fun segment. Let's go to the other upset now. Titans losing to the Texans. Tyrod Taylor comes through. Although the reality is, giving up 22 points to the Texans, okay, you can live with that. Scoring 13, like you can't live with that. Like what are you doing only scoring 13 points in this one? I think that a big aspect, again, we talk about turnovers. One of them was in garbage time, but the other three were like the game was legit in reach. And he threw Tannehill multiple turnovers in the fourth quarter. Like the Texans only had 3.1 yards per play in this game. It's not like they were like doing really much of anything. It's just that you can't turn the ball over that much. People could say they're really missing Derrick Henry. Like they had over 4 yards per carry in this game. So obviously Henry would have helped, but and there were some moments, Rick. Yeah, it could be nice to have Henry. I think they really need, like Nick Westbrook was their leading receiver in this one. Like they need more receiving options. Des Fitzpatrick had a couple of plays where he just struggled to get on the same page with Tannehill. So this was definitely like Tannehill was off in this one for sure. And this was definitely felt like a Titans lost this one.
Well, they almost had 500 yards of offense. Or they had 420 yards to 190 yards, and the team with 190 yards won this game, which just makes no sense, right? I mean,
when you lose the turnover battle 5-0, that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with the Titans now is, I mean, you're looking at this team, and it's like Henry's out for maybe until January. They said Julio Jones, who knows when he's going to play? AJ Brown leaves this game injured. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't if they're missing those three guys in particular, I don't know how this team's going to be successful. Like, I really just don't. Like, I think obviously they were close in this game, but if they're missing Brown, Jones, and Henry for a significant amount of time, I just don't know how. I don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah, well, the hope is that, I mean, what you have going for you is A, weak division, and B, you play Patriots next week, but then you have games against the Jaguars, the Steelers, the 49ers, the Dolphins, and the Texans. So that's a pretty easy schedule to finish up with those 5 games. You can at least win, honestly, they just win 2 of those games during the playoffs because they did such a good job in the first half. So hopefully by that point you're healthy and things can go well. But yeah, I mean, going back to the sort of the Patriots topic, like, how do they really win that game? They're not going to be able to run the ball too effectively. They probably won't be able to throw the ball too effectively. It's kind of hard to have success on offense when you can't do either of those two things. I think Tannehill's played well this year, but this was not his best performance.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, especially if Brown's out next Sunday. That's for sure, because I just don't see how they're going to be able to move the ball. And this is now 3 weeks of evidence that this offense just isn't the same now. Without Henry, which was kind of expected. And like you said, they moved the ball a little better in this game, but you still got to score points and finish drives. If you're not going to be able to do that, that's obviously a problem.
Yeah. On the other hand, Texans potentially could sneak into the AFC South, get that division victory.
The door's open now. I mean, this probably blew their number 1 pick chances, though, right? You got to say that. I mean, not that the players on the field care, but at the same time, like if you're a Texans front office guy, you're kind of like, oh, well, dang it.
If you wanted that, you could have, I don't know, don't sign Tyrod Taylor then.
Yeah, just roll with Davis Mills.
Yeah.
But
or just send a message from upstairs saying like, hey, we want to see what we got in Davis Mills. Keep him playing.
Well, they're going to go from, who was the guy they had a few years back? Tom Savage, Pitt legend, to Kenny Pickett, Pitt legend. They'll be fine.
Yeah, things are okay. Things are looking up for the Houston Texans. Kind of, whatever. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about this one, Ravens at Bears, which ended up being a pretty fascinating game towards the end here. We saw some ugliness going on early on where no offense could really get much going whatsoever. And that kind of finished for most of the game. What was really funny is, Fields wasn't really again, it's another one of those, like, not really his fault, but like, things just aren't really going too well for the Bears offense. All of a sudden, Andy Dalton comes in and throws like a 60-yard screen pass for a touchdown. And it's like just the most hilarious thing. So now people that didn't watch the game will see Andy Dalton almost 10 yards per attempt, whereas Fields, struggled in this one. Clearly, Andy Dalton is, his Fields sucks. Like, not really. That's not what happened kind of at all. I think there, some takeaways for Chicago, but for the Ravens, this is kind of one of those. Listen, you're missing your superstar quarterback. If anyone says Lamar Jackson is overrated, show him this game, and people are like, okay, yeah, no, Lamar Jackson means a lot to this team. You still found a way to get the win. Tyler Huntley only really had one good drive, but he, had it when it mattered, really.
Yeah, got sacked 6 times with the team without Khalil Mack, which is not great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so is there time to talk about Andy Dalton rebuilding around him in Chicago?
Well, here's the I think the interesting question is, like, if the Bears had Andy Dalton start like this entire season, like,
They're probably
it's
close
too
to a
late
playoff
now.
spot.
Yeah, because like again, it's a week, and again, maybe part of it is like, okay, well, what are we doing with like another 7 seed playoff spot and first round like exit? Like what does that help us? So I kind of get it, but like that is probably true. Like that's kind of why Matt Nagy is like, hey, I'm trying to win games here. That's my job. It probably would have made sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously Dalton's numbers were inflated. I didn't think he was that great. He had like you said, he had the screen pass touchdown. That being said, Justin Fields' QBR was 9. 9 out of 100. So
that's not one of those weird QBRs that's only out of 10.
No, it's 9 out of 100. So that's not great.
No.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think we're just seeing this more and more when it becomes like guys like him. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has had his struggles. Zach Wilson, obviously, with the whole Jets situation of just having a terrible team and all this stuff. It's like, is it actually worth throwing your guy in week 1 just because you want to?
I think it is if you have at least like a competent team. I just think like another unique scenario is that both, all 3 of the teams of Chicago, Jacksonville, and the Jets, all 3 of them like are like horrible situations. And even like, I think Chicago's okay. Like, it's been inconsistent is Chicago's thing. They've had some good like moments. Their running game is good. And like, Darnell Mooney went off in this one. He played really well, I thought. But again, it's been inconsistent. It'll have its ups, but it'll have its downs. And you could say the same thing with Jacksonville, I suppose. Can't really say that with the Jets. They've been consistent, if nothing else. But I think that's part of it is if you have a good team, I'm always kind of in the mindset of like reps help you, but like certain reps do not help you. And I think a lot of these reps that Fields is taking are not helping him.
Yeah, because it's hard enough to read blitzes in the NFL. It's even harder to read blitzes when nobody's being blocked.
Right.
I don't know. It's like I think that there's certain situations where it works, but you got to think at some point this is just gonna derail the confidence of a lot of these kids. I still think Fields is going to be fine going forward, but obviously they need a lot of help.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if I'm the Fields hater, I guess. I don't know if Fields is going to be fine going forward, but I think that there's at least hope, and I think the best thing for Fields is to let him sit for a few games, let him watch, and I think it's different when you watch someone else play football in the NFL. I think it's different than watching a guy on your team throw to your players and have more success than you do, and kind of making you realize, okay, this is how I have to do things. A good example of this actually is I made a video about this, and I brought it up in the video was. There was a play early on in Andy Dalton where he looks at his first read, it's not open. He immediately gets to a second read, makes the throw, and they get like 10 yards in the play. That's something that Fields isn't really doing. The narrative was one read quarterback, and I kind of thought it was an overblown narrative. But the reality is Fields in the NFL very much is like, okay, he's looking at a read and then he's panicking and starting to run. And part of that might just be like, that Cleveland Browns game. He's convinced he only has 1 second in the pocket, but like he does need to just be a little bit more calm back in the pocket. And I think maybe giving him some time off and letting him sort of learn that from Dalton, that could change things.
Yeah, and it's just interesting to see how some of these guys play out. Because, I mean, here's the thing. Even on great quarterback classes like this, statistically, it's about a 50-50 shot on your quarterback in the first round being good or not. Like, we all make guesses and say this stuff. We don't know at the end of the day. We still haven't seen Trey Lance play. We don't know.
Right.
Or, I mean, he had 1 game, but we've rarely seen him play, Trevor Lawrence has shown flashes, but he's also shown flashes of being really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Fields has had flashes, but flashes of being really bad. And I guess, by default, Mac has been the best, but at the same time, everyone says Mac's the low ceiling guy, but he clearly was the most polished with a lot of this processing and stuff that he's been able to adapt. And he's had the best roster around him of any of these rookie quarterbacks, which also
Mm-hmm.
helps. So, and the best offensive coordinator of any of these rookie quarterbacks, which also helps. So, I just think that there's a lot of things that go into it, but still at the end of the day, it's kind of a 50-50 shot. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah, well said. As for the Ravens, to round it out, Sunday Night Football next week. Browns at Ravens. Great job, NFL schedule makers. This one, they've had some questionable choices, but again, we can even talk about Thanksgiving. But Browns, Ravens, and then Bills, Patriots. I mean, knocked it out. Or no, Bills, Patriots the week after. I forget what Sunday is. Never mind. Let's move on. Let's go to a different game. How about? Let's go Lions at Browns here. Let's talk about quarterback who you previewed, Tim Boyle. I'll say this: lived up to the college hype.
Now, it wasn't hard to do that. I said that speaking of that, so just talking about these two real quick, I said Justin Fields' quarterback rate QBR was 9. Baker Mayfield's QBR was 8. And Tim Boyle's QBR was 6. So
Incredible.
this is not what you want to show on the film for great quarterback play from this game. Tim Boyle is who we thought he was, as Dennis Green would say. This wasn't very pretty to watch. The Lions, again, try, but there's just no talent. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Also, totally wrong. Monday night game coming up is Seahawks at Washington. So nope, did not nail it. A horrible job there, but at least the Sunday night game would be good. But yeah, back to this game. I mean, yeah, the Lions are atrocious, and like I think to me the more interesting question on this one is, I think you got to pull the plug. I think you got to put in Case Keenum. Like if Baker Mayfield's not healthy and this is how he's playing, then you got to let him rest. And if he is healthy and this is how he's playing, you got to get rid of him. Like this is not. I think I've said this before. It's like he's not playing good football. He's actively hurting your chances to win. Case Keenum at 100% is better than Baker Mayfield at whatever percent he's currently in.
Yeah, I think the theme of this season, if we've learned anything, once again, I think this is actually a coward quote, so I feel bad even taking it.
Okay.
But it's you never go cheap on quarterbacks and you never go cheap on steak. No one's enjoyed the $8 steak special, and no one's enjoyed the $10 million quarterback. And we continue to see these teams go cheap on quarterbacks and get massively disappointed with the results. And I think the solution is don't pay Baker Mayfield. I think it's come down to that point. I liked Baker last year. I was a fan of his coming out of college, but it just doesn't seem like it's working, man. I just don't think he's very good.
Well, I mean, the one one caveat I still have is how bad is the injury? Like, if they know he's playing through like something horrible and like that's completely affecting his play, then like that kind of maybe you get. I mean, you already have the 5th-year contract, so you have him for next year. Now, someone will take him off your hands. Someone would take the trade to get. You can get rid of that, and I believe that then they would pay for all of it. But you already have that situation. So if the injury is what you think is causing his play to be bad, then you keep him. But I mean, this Lions defense. I mean, people are torching left and right. I mean, the Steelers didn't, but the Steelers aren't good. Like the Eagles scored 44, the Rams scored 28, Bengals 34. You've had a couple of weird ones, like the Vikings and the Ravens only scoring 19. But like in each of those games, both those teams left points on the board. Like Justin Fields torched this secondary. Everyone is torching this secondary. You have Baker Mayfield come in and can't get anything going. So that's a real issue, and not only that, but the way that they're treating Baker Mayfield, they don't want him to throw down the field. Everything is underneath. It's not even his fault. A lot of it is just like, okay, Baker, don't screw it up here, and that's why I just say it's like this is not championship football. You got to figure something else out, and when you're spending good money on a good backup and your quarterback is playing hurt and not playing well, like I just don't get what we're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I've rarely ever seen a team have more rushing yards than passing yards and nearly have more rushing yards per carry than yards per attempt. It was 6 yards per pass and 5 yards per run. I mean, that's just a weird thing to see.
Meanwhile, for the Lions, they had 77 passing yards and 168 rushing yards. So,
Yeah, I mean, that was wild. So, I mean, that's about what you expect with Tim Boyle. I mean, it was 7 yards per run and 3 yards per. They should have just ran an option offense, honestly. Like, why even have Tim Boyle go under center?
Well, the other thing we have to factor in is like, why the hell was Tim Boyle plan B? Like, I get if he's like plan D, like, okay, we have some emergency. Like, he was like, okay, well, if Jared Goff, who already isn't a great quarterback, and we like, no, this might not work out. Like, why not just get one of those? Like, there were some solid, like, undrafted free agent quarterbacks this year. Get one of those guys.
Yeah. Cam Newton sat at his home for like months while Tim Boyle had a job. Crazy.
Just absolutely baffling.
I will say though, one thing about the Lions, Jonathan Taylor may end up being the best back from that draft, but DeAndre Swift's a star. I don't even care. I mean, this kid's an absolute stud. He was amazing in this game. He continues to be. Him and Hawkinson continue to be the only two starters worth keeping basically on this Lions team, besides the guys in the offensive line. But I mean, for a team that's basically like 20 starters away from being like a decent NFL team, he continues to put up good numbers, and he's an absolute stud.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think he had that one big long run. Okay, I think that's that's enough. Let's move on. Let's get off of the Lions, please. Let's stop talking about them. Let's go to let's go with Cardinals at Seahawks. Colt McCoy doing Colt McCoy things. Classic Colt McCoy, continuing to have success and proving that he's just a great quarterback, which we all knew he would be. And I'm not just saying this because his name is cool.
Yeah, that young upstart really coming alive here. Yeah, I mean, stick a fork in Seattle, right?
Yeah, I mean that's your take. Best take of the year so far was you saying the Seattle Seahawks would be fourth in the division. And you were maybe too high on them.
Hold on, I've had two great takes so far from the offseason. I gotta say, but that's definitely number one. Yeah. I would say that's definitely number one. It's definitely coming true. This team can't move the ball, even with Russell Wilson back. They had basically two big plays that kind of skew the stats. I mean, this is another one. Russell Wilson's QBR was 22. Like, Colt McCoy's was 76, by the way. So tells you who was the better quarterback in this game. I mean, that's just huge, though, right? That you lose. You're 2-1 without Kyler Murray. You're 1-1 without DeAndre Hopkins, and now you get a bye week, and you're seemingly going to get those two guys back. I mean, that's a fantastic stretch to have now going forward.
Cliff Kingsbury, coach of the year. Like, to me, it's obvious. Cliff Kingsbury should be the coach of the year. And this is another great game plan by him of getting stuff up. And this is also why I like having, I've never been a big fan of having the like third round rookie as a backup quarterback type thing. Give me a veteran, give me a Colt McCoy, give me like a Blaine Gabbert. You don't need to have like a star, even like a Brian Hoyer. It's like, okay, someone who's going to come in and will just play competent football and can execute an offense. Okay. That's all I want. You don't have to pay him much. This is the kind of guy you want in the backup, because like the young quarterbacks, they have to learn how to play football, which you just don't want to do when you're trying to compete for a championship. So this is why you have, and I thought McCoy played well. He again, it was very much he ran the offense, but he ran the offense solidly well. It was more about the Cliff Kingsbury of it all. And also, like, for the Seattle Seahawks, it's like, okay, stop disguising and then just going back to cover three. Like, we know you guys want to do cover three. They already have the play set up. Like, okay, don't you keep doing these disguises just to go back to cover three every play.
Even better, just stop running cover three, because it doesn't work.
Right.
It's a terrible defense. I mean, it seems like almost every defense that's running cover three is basically 5 years in the past now, right?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, you're basically archaic for NFL standards. It doesn't make any sense at this point. Every team knows how to expose it. I mean, Zach Ertz had a monster game. He's basically back now in the NFL, and
crazy.
Yeah, he was good in this game. Every team knows how to expose this defense. Stop running it. It's time to move on. So here's the interesting question: is Pete Carroll the Seahawks coach next year?
I think they're gonna. I'll say yes, because I think that he went to 2 Super Bowls and won one. That buys you some time. And B, you have the Russell Wilson got hurt thing. Even though they haven't been good, even with what Russell Wilson in there, that's kind of an excuse you can pull.
Well, so the interesting thing is that, Russ kind of tested the waters of maybe wanting to be traded, but didn't really ask for it.
Hmm.
Um, so, like, if he asks out this offseason, like, is Pete Carroll, the oldest coach in the NFL, going to want to sit through a rebuild? I think that's the interesting part of it. If Russ
Well,
asks out, is Pete out?
if he if he asks out and he says, "Well, I'll maybe consider staying if Pete Carroll is fired," Pete Carroll will be fired by during that phone call, like that Pete
Yeah.
gives to the owner, that's as quick as it will be.
Yeah. I don't know. Because this is part of the thing that we've continued to say with this team. While there is some great highs with the Pete Carroll era, he's failed to adapt throughout basically everything. He
Hmm.
he hasn't adapted anything. He still has some of the same concept of that archaic offense, and then the defense now looks archaic. As I was saying, this team just feels like it'd be great 5 years ago, and it's not 5 years ago anymore, and that's why they're getting killed in a lot of these games.
Yeah. Overlap 618, the great overlap says, "Will the Seahawks trade Russell?" To me, I think it's just one of those things where it's like, how do you win a Russell Wilson trade if you're the Seahawks? Like, I just don't know how, unless you get another like quarterback. The only thing I was thinking of is like, there's been like Raiders fans kind of are, some Raiders fans think that Carr should go. I think that's silly, but that is an argument. Maybe like a Russell Wilson for Carr, and then I think the Raiders would have to give up some more stuff to make that work. Maybe something like that. But the reality is, like, it's hard to win a Russell Wilson trade. I don't think they do it unless like Russell Wilson just says, "I'm not playing for you unless you trade me."
Yeah, that's the interesting part of this, right? Is that so we keep waiting for this player empowerment era to enter the NFL,
Hmm.
and it's like like Rodgers tested it, the Packers won out, and Rodgers came back for another year.
Hmm.
Russell Wilson like half tested it and said, "Hey, I don't want to be traded, but if you were to trade me, here's the teams I want to go to."
Right.
He ends up back with the Seahawks, and then Deshaun Watson basically loses an entire year of his career and is dealing with all this off the field stuff after asking for a trade. Um, so I don't know. Like it's hard to trade a franchise quarterback because it's so hard to find franchise quarterbacks. Um, do I think he could be traded? Sure. Could he ask out? I don't know if they're actually going to follow through on that though. Because if he has to be traded, what's the Seahawks incentive to trade unless they get like 7 first-round picks?
I got one. I want to throw one at you, Kyle.
Okay.
You're all of a sudden Bill Belichick says, "You know what? I need a GM. I'm going to hand it off to you." First day in the office, Seahawks call Russell Wilson for Mac Jones, 1 for 1. What are you doing?
1 for 1.
Yep.
I think I'm
I
keeping
mean,
Mac.
this is absurd that you're thinking about it for this long. This is an insane thing. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, you should take Russell Wilson over
Yeah, I
Mac
know. I
Jones.
know. I love
You love
Mac
Mac
Jones.
Jones.
Yeah. So I have a bold prediction for you.
What's that?
Russell Wilson by August is a New Orleans Saint.
I would be so upset. I would not be a fan. Also, apparently, the chat is saying no, they would keep Mac Jones, which I think is like insane. How is that? Why would you not take an already elite quarterback over a guy who maybe could be one day?
Listen. Have you had delicious home baked mac and cheese? Have you tasted the succulent deliciousness of mac and cheese?
I've had like actual mac and cheese, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah,
Chick-fil-A mac and cheese, good.
you need to taste it to understand it, man. Can't live without Mac.
I like. I mean, some people are saying rookie contract. Like, I guess that's kind of fair, but like, basically, the way you win a Super Bowl is you have a good quarterback on a rookie contract, or you
Have a
you
superstar.
have like a superstar quarterback. Like, those are the two things you can do. So like, and listen, there's exceptions, of course, but that's the main ways you win it. I think getting the superstar is a more long-term plan than getting Mac Jones, unless you believe he will be a superstar. But I guess it's a question that amazingly to me, most people would take Jones. So I don't know.
I mean, the only reason I wouldn't want him in Foxborough is because I'd have to see Mr. Invincible videos all the time. That's not something I'd look forward to. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Russ is a New Orleans Saint. That's my pick.
Yes. Overlap 618 says, "Jackson, can you read this? He's on a rookie contract." I can read that. Thank you for the all caps, though. That makes it easier. Yes, I'm aware he's on a rookie contract. I get all of that. The reality is, like, the extra, like you can spend over the cap. You could just spend 20 million more. Like the cap is a very soft cap in the NFL. Give me the superstar.
Yep. Well, we like our quarterback. It's okay.
All right. Well, yeah, that's fine. And listen, Mac Jones is good. Whatever. Let's move on. So we got 5 games left. Let's go Saints Eagles here. Are the Eagles? So the Eagles are going to make the playoffs. That's what I think is going to happen. I think the Eagles are a playoff team. Now they might not be like a playoff caliber team, but like they're 5-6, and you look at the schedule. Play the Giants twice. They play the Jets. They play the Washington football team twice, and then they play the Cowboys. Like they're going to win. They might not win all 5 of those like games they should win, but they'll probably win like 4 of them, and that probably would be enough.
Well, so the weird thing is that they basically zagged on the rest of the NFL, and it's working now, right? Because they kind of figured it out. I thought it was really weird to start the season why they didn't use any of their running backs basically ever. And I think one of the things we're starting to see now is that they've kind of figured out, we've talked about the evolution of defenses, that the cover 3 was the king for years. And now we're seeing this cover 2 kind of soft shell take away the deep explosive passing play. Well, the Eagles kind of zagged, and they have all these dudes who can run the football. They have Sanders, they have Howard, they have Hurts. Even Boston Scott got into the action. I mean, he didn't have a great game, but still. So they kind of have all these guys who can kind of just run the ball, and they have a decent offensive line. And it's like they just basically zagged on the NFL by accident, and it's working. And so now they can kind of just stick with this game plan, and it's going to work against a lot of matchups.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of something like similar with like Minnesota, of how they run the ball so frequently that they kind of accidentally built an offense designed to beat cover 2 just by being like like 10 years behind. They're now like back ahead, like because the strategy is kind of circular in that way. I mean, yeah, I think it's fascinating. And again, you look at who they would have to beat to get into the postseason. Like Minnesota's 5-5, and San Francisco is 5-5, and the Saints are 5-5. So those are the 3 teams that are ahead of them. You also have the Panthers, who are tied at 5-6 with the Eagles. Like it's a legitimate like thing. And I think an element of this has to be mentioned as well. Is like, okay, part of this was Trevor Siemian like sucked. Like Trevor Siemian was not good, and this kind of maybe put to the test of like, hey, maybe this strategy for the Saints of not paying any resources into having good receivers or quarterbacks, maybe it's starting to come back to bite you a little.
Yeah, you can't just hope Sean Payton figures everything out. I mean, the big thing is that, we knew they apparently Michael Thomas just isn't playing anymore. But Alvin Kamara being out the last 2 weeks has really hurt this team. And it's looked the part. They haven't looked good these last 2 weeks, and I think that's been a huge problem. I mean, there's just not a lot of offensive weapons on this team right now.
Yeah, another fascinating thing is, the Saints outgained the Eagles in this one in terms of yards per play. They had 5.2 yards per play for the Eagles, 4.9. It's another one of those turnovers are a thing. And when you have win a turnover battle 3-1, that's going to help you out a lot. And sort of like we said, like the running game is a way to have success. They were able to run the ball effectively. So the Eagles are a good-ish team.
It wasn't even just that they ran the ball successfully. They had 77 plays and ran the ball 50 times.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, yeah.
In fairness, some of those were like designed, drop backs, and Jalen Hurts took off. But, Jalen Hurts ran the ball 18 times himself. Some of those were designed, but that's pretty crazy in its own right.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that this is in the right matchups. I think the Eagles are going to look pretty good. And if Darius Slay manages to get a touchdown a game, that's going to help too.
Yeah, there you go. Fascinating. I think both of these teams are fascinating. Looking forward to seeing the Eagles, Thanksgiving night football against the Bills. That should be a fun game. 2 teams that are kind of trying to get on the right track. I'm looking forward to that one. Looking forward to previewing it on Tuesday again, not Wednesday, Tuesday.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be, I've already had my piece on Thanksgiving, elite holiday.
Yeah, we don't need to get you back on Thanksgiving. All right. Want to just move on? Let's go to Bengals at Raiders. I mean, this is such a stupid game plan by the Raiders. This is second week in a row. The Raiders, like a team basically handed the Raiders, hey, here's this perfect roadmap on how you can beat the Bengals defense. We've seen teams do this constantly, just like check downs over the middle. You're going to be fine. They did it like 0 times this entire game. The Raiders, I'm convinced, do not watch film. they have talent, but there's just too much going on around it. Part of it is like, okay, you lost your head coach, and kind of understand. Raiders screwed some stuff up. Flip side, though, I didn't even think the Bengals played that well. I mean, Joe Burrow had just barely over 5 yards per attempt in this one. They ran the ball a lot, not necessarily super effectively, but they had some success doing that. Mixon ran the ball 30 times. They had 4.1 yards per carry. I mean, this was kind of an ugly game from two teams that are trying to make the postseason, but credit to Bengals. Bengals defense made plays. You got to give them credit for that. Bengals were clearly the better team in this one, I think, but kind of just an ugly game. I wasn't a fan of the coach. As someone who likes to watch coaching and seeing how this, the chess match works and the X's and O's, felt kind of like watching a chess match between two teenagers. And kind of just like, okay, I'm not really and I mean 13, not 19. It's kind of like, okay, the rules, but this isn't anything too high level.
Yeah, I mean, this playoff race is kind of ridiculous. They fell all the way to 11 with this loss. The only other 5, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of out on the Raiders now, right? It just kind of has to be. It just has to be over, right?
Well,
this season.
So part of the interesting thing about the Raiders, I mean, so they play the Cowboys next week. I think that'll probably be competitive. I would assume, maybe not. I don't know. I think that the Raiders have a chance. I think that part of the issue is they're very matchup dependent, and they don't like to change what they do. So if you're a team that will change what you do, you're going to beat the Raiders every time because you'll know how to attack the Raiders.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Which makes an interesting matchup with the Cowboys. I mean, I think that it's going to be. I don't know. It just seems like this team's basically lost it. It just seems like this team's flat, and rightfully so because they've dealt with a lot this year, but. This is also a team that's been on the fringe of playoffs the last 2 years, and they were hoping this was the team to get over the hump. And when it looked like at times, it just seems like it's all fallen.
Yeah, which again, it's a trend at this point for the Raiders, right? I mean, they start off strong and then fall apart. It's amazing how they consistently do this. I mean, listen, there still is hope. You're 5-5. This is not, and again, 7 teams make the playoffs, so that makes things a little bit easier. Although, again, remember when the Dolphins won 10 games and missed it last year. So it's not a guarantee, but it's still I think that there's still hope. Derek Carr, you still have a really good quarterback in Carr, but I do think that part of it is, listen, it's not just the mental side of losing John Gruden, Henry Ruggs, and Damon Arnett. I mean, it is for Damon Arnett, but for Henry Ruggs and John Gruden, they were significant parts of this team. So losing Ruggs itself, that doesn't just hurt because the mental stuff. It hurts because that's a player that was, an impact player for you.
Yeah. The crazy thing was I saw another thing that said Mariota should start.
It's insanity. I just don't. I mean, and Carr didn't have his best game, but a big chunk of it, I think, was again if you don't attack the Bengals the way that you're supposed to attack the Bengals, they're going to look elite defensively. There's a way to beat them. There's a pathway to beat them. If you don't do that, you're going to struggle, and they didn't do that, so they predictably struggled.
Right. Yeah, it's just a weird situation. It'll be interesting to see I'm not convinced this Bengals team's good. I'm just not. And I'm still not really after this game. They got the win, give them credit for that. But I don't really know what to think about this team going forward either.
I'm still kind of in the camp of I think they're a talented team that is maybe a year away from really competing, but also needs the I still don't trust the coaching staff, even though they have had they've overperformed my expectations, but my expectations were very low and still are relatively low.
Currently, the playoff picture is Cincinnati at 5, Los Angeles at 6, Buffalo 7, with Pittsburgh at 8 at 5-4-1, Indianapolis at 9 at 6-5, and the Browns at 10 at 6-5.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's a lot of teams that have a chance.
I mean, the Dolphins are even working their way back into the picture now too. So there's legitimately 8 teams vying for 3 playoff spots.
Oh, the Dolphins have kind of an easy schedule a little bit coming up too, where they play the Panthers, the Giants, and the Jets, but then they play the Saints, Titans, and Patriots to end things. But maybe they'll stay in the hunt for a little bit. That's kind of fun. But all right, want to move on?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to 3 games. Let's go balls at Panthers here. Cam Newton was back. What we saw was I actually thought people are kind of saying we're blaming on Cam Newton. I thought Cam Newton played all right in this one. What I saw was this is kind of what Washington I think is going to be a little bit of Taylor Heineke at any moment can go off, and it can go in both ways, but it's very similar to the Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he throws with such anticipation that he throws before guys are open. So if it works out, you're going to have a game like this where he has nearly 10 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. It can go on the flip side. They ran the ball well as well, outside of, there was not a great fumble there, but other than that, Washington, they did solid stuff on offense, and that's really what allowed them to pull out this victory. I mean, Taylor Heineke had it was a 4th down and 3. He just had like an absurd play where he turned it into, at first they had a 3rd and 21 to get 18 yards, and a 4th and 3, he scrambles, finds someone at the last second, converts. He's Fitzmagic 2.0. Like, we lost Fitzpatrick this season, but we gained a new Fitzpatrick, hopefully for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I thought he looked good in this game, and obviously they ran the ball pretty well. The shocking thing to me was, this Panthers defense is supposed to be good. And they didn't really play well in this game. Like you said, Heineke kind of went off. I thought the running game kind of went off. McLaurin obviously did his thing, and it's like, McLaurin is the guy you try and scheme against, and he just had a huge game off of 5 catches. And I don't know. It just seemed like that the Panthers defense let him down in this one.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But again, I think that's kind of like Heineke can do it to anyone. He's not matchup dependent. He'll destroy whoever and get destroyed by whoever. It's a coin flip with him.
2 straight games of playing all right, though.
Yeah, put it together and you could be an all right quarterback.
Yeah, he only needs to put it together for 16 more games.
Taylor Heineke will be in the NFL 10 years from now. He's done enough that he'll be somewhere in the NFL 10 years from now.
Do you feel the same way about Tim Boyle?
No.
No? Okay.
20 years from now, he'll still be in the NFL. That guy's got a super long, he'll be Brady-like career for him.
Fair enough. Yeah, on the other side, I thought Cam actually looked pretty good, like you said in this one. He had some nice throws. McCaffrey continues to be that cheat code. They ran the ball well with those two. There's things to like about this Panthers offense. There's some life to this now, right?
Yeah, I like them a lot better with Cam. I really do. I think that Cam adds a lot to it, although it is kind of a little bit funny as well. I thought they were going to run away with it early on, and then I was all of a sudden like, oh, wait, no, the Washington football team is winning. What's going on? But with Cam Newton, I do think that he adds something to this team. He's not a superstar or anything like that at this point in his career, but he still does add stuff. And I do think it's a little bit funny that the quarterback they've had the most success with is the guy that right when they got there, they ran out of town.
Yeah. Hey, we need to get rid of this guy, and then they bring him back, and he's awesome. Not awesome, but he was good enough in this one. He put them in a position to win this game. Yeah, so I don't know. It's obviously a weird situation. I don't know. This team, this is another team that it just feels like it's kind of lost its energy. Cam brought some of it back a little bit, but as far as making the playoffs, it seems like it's just going to be a little short this year.
Yeah, again, the nice thing is play the Dolphins, then you play the Falcons. But another aspect is, okay, well, do we know they're better than the Dolphins or the Falcons at this point? I think I've said the Dolphins' good thing is they play the Panthers next week, and the Panthers' good thing is they play the Dolphins next week. It's part of it is you have to actually win those games. I agree. It's if they win this game, they have momentum going, you're feeling good about yourself. Kind of a tough loss. I'm still feel like I think they shot themselves in the foot by, again, everyone talked about Denver not drafting Justin Fields or Mac Jones. Where would the Panthers be if they drafted Mac Jones?
Well, and the big thing is too is that, or Justin Fields. I think.
Jones has been the better quarterback, so that's why I said him.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's just I don't know. It's a, and JC Horn. I understand wanting to get a cornerback, but at the same time, did you have to take a cornerback in that spot? It seems weird. I don't know. I remember the Bill Barnwell theory that you should take a quarterback every year until you have your quarterback. And this feels like one of the opportunities where it would apply, right?
Yeah, well, especially it's they didn't even have a quarterback, so it's you might the guy they went after was Sam Darnold, so it's yeah, no, you can take this chance, get another guy, but the other issue is well, if you're a GM, it's usually because you're a scout, you usually trust your scouting and you trust how you feel. If you didn't think Jones or Fields would be good, that's probably why they didn't go in that direction. And maybe they thought that maybe they liked one of those guys, but thought they'd be gone by now. I don't know. But that's probably why they made the decision. I just find it weird how Denver gets all the criticism when Carolina did literally the exact same thing.
Yeah. No, I agree.
All right. Let's move on. 2 games left. Let's go Mammals at Jets here. Kyle got one of my lock of the weeks correct. That's really all I have to say about this. Joe Flacco was played and went full Joe Flacco, really.
Yeah, he's now, if I got to do a Jets quarterback rankings, I'm still going with Johnson as 1. I think I'm going to move Flacco up to 2 here. I think
Okay.
Flacco showed me enough to be number 2. Mike White is still going to sit at 3. He's going to drop one spot down to 3. And then that means Zach Wilson has to slot in at 4. Yeah, so that's going to be my list. It's Johnson, Flacco, White, then Wilson on my Jets quarterback power rankings. You know who'd be the top of my Jets power rankings in general? Elijah Moore. He was pretty good in this game.
Yeah, Elijah Moore showed some stuff, and he's kind of had up and down, rookie season. So it's nice to see him get some stuff going. I think that going back to the quarterback thing, I think that this was very well played by the Jets. The Jets 100%. I don't know this, but next week they got the Texans. They want Zach Wilson to play in that game. That's what their goal is. They want that to be Zach Wilson first game back. Also, Luke Brown, my boy Tua, ain't got a noodle arm. He got a rocket. Dolphins pushing for the playoffs. Fins up. Tua had a hilarious deep pass where it's like it looked like he was like those shot putters. Like I was expecting like turn around before throwing it. Like he put so much of his effort into it.
Yeah. They've won 2 in a row though. They're 4 wins now. They're in the conversation.
Are they?
They're still there.
I feel it's like the Bears, like last week, where it's a couple weeks ago. It's like, hey, they have, or even like the Steelers. Like, okay, I know that what their record is, but like, okay, yes, they beat the Ravens, and that was impressive. But that was a game plan win, and they beat the Jets and looked like not good doing it. Like you barely beat a Joe Flacco led Jets, learning a new system like 2 weeks ago. Like this is not a good win for the Dolphins. I get that technically, like, the schedule is a little bit easy coming up. I get all that. The Dolphins are not a good football team.
What was your preseason win total?
6.
Okay, so
it was a little over 6. It was like 6.5.
So not quite there yet.
No, they might still get there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in this team seriously going forward, but hey, they're winning games. I think the one thing is Tua's earned himself another year at least. I mean, I don't think he's great, but I think he's earned himself another year.
Yeah, probably. I mean, so let's first off, people are correcting us in the chat. It's 3 in a row. They beat the Texans by 8 before then. So I mean, they're on fire. Yeah. I mean, has he though? Like, listen, I like Tua. I like what I've seen from Tua. But like, again, if we're from the mindset of either you want to win when you're on a rookie contract, well, are the Dolphins close enough to build that team around him in 1 year? Like, I still stand by for the Dolphins. Hey, if Russell Wilson's available, trade Tua in a package to get Russell Wilson, right? Couldn't this be more of a, I get it. He's not the worst option. You don't have to move off of him, but you also don't have to keep him either. Like if you have a better option, take it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. If it's Deshaun Watson, obviously, that's a situation where you can't really say no. I do think he's earned another year as a starter in the NFL, whether it's with the Dolphins or with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is another team with a very interesting draft too, right? Because they had the 3rd pick, and I think they rightfully traded back because the San Francisco 49ers offered a lot. Then they traded up, including trading their first-round pick next year to pick Jalen Waddle, who I think is good, but might be the 3rd best receiver in this draft.
I mean, he hasn't proven that he's better than Devonta Smith, who's the guy that the Eagles ended up getting with the pick that they traded back with. I mean, the Eagles then traded up a spot, but yeah.
And he's clearly well below Chase right now. And, I think if Tony's on the field, I like Tony a lot more than what I've seen from Waddle this year. It's just getting Tony on the field.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's again, if we're talking about like this year versus, I like what I've seen from Waddle, but I also think that an aspect of this as well is, I mean, it's not just that decision that made no sense on draft night. I mean, the Dolphins did such good work acquiring so many draft picks and have completely screwed up this whole situation, really. I mean, you think about the draft where they had Tua over Herbert, which obviously keeps getting talked about, but it's a fair thing. I mean, you screwed up that evaluation. I'm not saying I wouldn't have, but they did screw it up. You then drafted Austin Jackson in the first round and Noah Igbenogany in the first round. Now draft, you trade it back, which was smart. You get an extra draft pick, but then you kind of end up, it's almost worse because now you could have a good draft pick you don't have. They've made some tough decisions these past couple of years.
Yeah. It's a very interesting situation, but yeah, I mean, it feels like that they're kind of in bad shape right now.
Yeah, it's a comment. LOL, you like Tony more than Waddle. Now that a joke. Yeah, no, I can't imagine someone being super high on Tony. Can't imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, who would be that guy? I know,
Can't
right?
imagine. Can't imagine
Uh,
someone maybe thought he was like the best receiver in this draft class or something. That'd be crazy.
I mean, when he's been on the field, like
Hmm.
that team has like Slayton, Galladay, who's the other guy on that team? Shepard and
They
Tony.
have yeah. Oh, you already said Galladay. I don't know.
Yeah. And when Tony's on the field and playing, he's been the best receiver in that group. He's just not
Hmm.
on the field enough right now.
Yeah, I mean, I like what I've seen from Tony, but again, I've always liked what I've seen from Tony. Let's move on. This is not an interesting game. Let's go to another game that wasn't interesting. 49ers blew out the Jaguars, did what you're supposed to do. I mean, this was an impressive win for the 49ers, who are back at this point. Like, we kind of wrote them off after they got crushed by Colt McCoy, but I guess maybe Colt McCoy is like, all right, and maybe the Cardinals are okay in that spot. They blew out the Rams last week. Now they've blown out the Jaguars. They also blew out the Lions in an 8-point win. I know that doesn't sound correct, but that is what happened in that game. So they've had some impressive wins in this season. And I think that the issue with the 49ers, kind of always been the issue with the 49ers, is like they hadn't been healthy. They're healthier now. They're kind of starting to look like that playoff team that we thought they would be heading into this season. And in the NFC, where it's a little bit weaker, like they totally have a shot to make the playoffs if they can continue playing well. Obviously, tough division makes it more difficult, but still.
Brandon Ayuk's alive. That was nice to see. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting things
Mhm.
from the 49ers. I continue to think Jimmy Garoppolo plays well. I thought Ayuk had a good game in this one. And then it's once again like Elijah Mitchell's out in this game. And they just throw Deebo Samuel at running back, basically. And he has a big
Mhm.
game running the football. Like they just continue to churn out these guys, figuring out ways to scheme things up. I think the interesting thing with the 49ers is we continue to talk about this draft. They trade all the way up to get Trey
Oh yeah.
Lance. Like if Garoppolo leads them to the playoffs this year, Garoppolo probably starts next year, right?
Oh, that's fascinating. I always assumed that Trey Lance was the starter next year, no matter what. I think they probably trade Garoppolo, see if they can get some back. I don't know what you get for him though, because I don't know who's clamoring for like the 19th best quarterback in the NFL, right? Like so, what are you
Yeah.
going to really get for that? Who's he's getting paid. Like it's not as bad as the contract as it was right when he got it, but he still is getting money. Although again, you can kind of trades make those things weird of like how much does the team that's getting actually pay.
If you're a team searching for a quarterback next season, would you rather have Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield?
I think I'd rather have Baker. I feel like Baker still has. I've seen higher highs from Baker than from Garoppolo. Like even Garoppolo's best, he was still like throwing dumb interceptions. Like Baker, at least he has that 8-game stretch last year where he looked awesome.
Yeah. He's playing well right now, though. He's had, I think, 3 good games in a row, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, you have to give him credit for that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this team. But he is playing well, and this team might battle back into the playoff spot with him.
Yeah, Garoppolo 3 straight games with a passer rating over 100. In fairness, 2 of those were exactly 100.6, so just barely over 100, but still gets that 3-digit threshold. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just an odd. I think you got to go with Trey Lance. I just don't get the whole Trey Lance thing. I still don't understand it. I've never understood what they were doing with the whole Trey Lance situation. I would love. I'm sure there's a plan, and I'll be interested in seeing what it was. As of what I know right now, I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that at the time, it didn't seem like when they made the trade, they wanted Trey Lance to begin with. Because
Hmm.
everything was saying that Mac was the guy. And, I'm not one to discount Adam Schefter's reporting because he was basically saying it's going to be Mac all the way up until a week before the draft.
Yeah. Also, this comment: Baker had higher highs? Question mark. Jimmy went to the Super Bowl laughing, crying emoji. Yeah, he threw 8 passes in the NFC Championship game. Like I know he played in the Super Bowl. Doesn't mean he has had a better stretch than Mayfield had. I mean, again, Jimmy Garoppolo was not fantastic that season. Like he was all right, but he was very much, along for the ride.
Yeah. I mean,
He's been better than Baker this season. I'll say that.
To me, neither one of the guys really right now move the needle for me. So it's just
Hmm.
kind of that's how I feel about it right now.
And also, how do you play in that Super Bowl?
Yes, I agree.
Hmm. Yeah, but again, like listen, there's value in both of those guys. I just the way I view quarterbacks is like it's really hard to win a Super Bowl with a Jimmy Garoppolo. It's really hard to win a Super Bowl with a Baker Mayfield. The Niners almost did it, but it's really difficult to do that. It's a lot easier to do it with a superstar quarterback. So I'm trying to do whatever I can to get that. Maybe even trade. What about Jimmy Garoppolo for Russell Wilson? 1-for-1.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Garoppolo's
trade.
been to a Super Bowl more recently.
Yeah, that's true. Should we talk about the Jaguars a little bit?
I'm all right.
Hey, it
Sure,
looked
we'll
a
talk
little
about.
better. It looked a little better with Chanel and Jones back on the field. I thought Lawrence had some flashes in this game, but once again, I thought he missed some things also. Typical rookie stuff, but he continues to show flashes where I still feel really good about it.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think at this point we kind of know who these rookie quarterbacks are going to be as rookies, right? I guess the exception is I want to see more from Zach Wilson because we've only seen him play 5 games. But for and again, obviously Trey Lance. But for the other three, it's like I kind of know who you guys are as rookies. There'll be some variance, but we'll probably have to wait till next season to really see how things shake up. I thought James Robinson had one of the better games you'll ever see from a guy who had 2.4 yards per carry. Because like I mean, James Robinson is really good. Like he's unfortunately this game was not his best statistically, but he's doing some really good stuff as well. I think for the Jaguars, maybe one thing to learn is okay, this defense has steadily improved week after week. This was a step back, and this kind of makes you realize, okay, they have some pieces here. They're still not a complete defense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they're not a complete football team. I think they're getting in the right direction, but you know, it's a long rebuilding process. People got to stay patient.
Yeah, that's our hot takes. Jaguars maybe not that great. All right, so Kyle, that's our show.
Is that the last game? I feel like we were missing one.
I don't think so. Anyone? Maybe we didn't talk about the Chargers game. That was it.
Oh yeah. No, actually, we did cover everything. Okay, we're good. All right, sounds good. Good show. Thanks, everyone.
All right, Kyle. Yeah, it should be fun. We're going to see each other just in a couple days. I'm going to the Buccaneers game tomorrow night, so I'm excited for that. They better not lose. That would be a bummer.
Daniel Jones. Can the Giants find some magic against Tom Brady? I was hearing this from a Giants fan earlier that like the Giants own Brady still. Daniel Jones is 0-2 against Brady, so like,
Yeah, I was about to say like we beat him last year.
yeah. So I don't know how true any of that is anymore. Should
Yeah.
be should be an easy Tampa Bay victory, but what we saw in the NFL once again, you never know.
Yeah, should be fun. I think they're going to give John Lynch his Hall of Fame ring at halftime, so that's another fascinating aspect of it. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to podcasting the next day to preview the Thanksgiving games and everything there. That should be fun. And again, got videos coming out every day. We'll have videos scheduled for tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Kyle, let them know where they can find us before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That's at Jackson Kruger on Twitter. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grondin on Twitter. And make sure to follow our account page. That's at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK, where once again we'll remind you that Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, we'll do our preview show this week instead of Wednesday. Just Thanksgiving travel stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle. I mean, you got to hope that you do better than you did last week. I mean, it was a tough week for you.
I agree. I think I am done gambling on football. Hey, I'm going to Florida where I can legally gamble online, sports betting. I'm going to throw in some NBA bets as I get there, so that'll be fun.
All right, yeah. So have a good time losing a bunch of money, Kyle. That should be fun. Everyone, as we always say, if you do gamble, gamble responsibly. Only bet against the Jets.
Very true.
Hmm.
I'm like in the 60 percentile when it comes to NBA bets. That's a fantastic
Oh,
number.
there you
But
go.
I'm pretty good with the NBA.
So
NFL,
you
I
should
really struggle.
just
No.
quit your real job and just start doing NBA bets.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just need a
All
little
right.
investment.
Exactly. Yeah. Just take out all your money and just hope for the best. Don't listen to me. Everyone, thank you again. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out?
Looking forward to Monday night. Looking forward to Thanksgiving. Looking forward to Thanksgiving football. and should be a good time.
Yes, it should be fun. Enjoy your favorite holiday. Oh, we'll see each other before then. But thank you to everyone again in the chat or after the fact. We appreciate it. And of course, as always, see you later, alligator.
Peace.